Hello there. Tonight, we're taking a slow, sleepy journey back in time to a place with no phones, no plumbing, and no soft pillows. Just one-room cabins, cold porridge, itchy wool, and the long, quiet rhythms of early American life. This isn't a story of battles or grand adventures. No, tonight we'll walk through the everyday discomforts, small chores, and quiet struggles of a time you probably wouldn't last 2 days in. But don't worry, there's no need to lift buckets or chop firewood. All you have to do is lie back, take a deep breath, and let the dull, dusty details of history slowly carry you off to sleep. This is boring history for sleep, and this is why you wouldn't last a day in early America. Let's begin. Part 1: Waking up in a cold cabin. The morning chill before fire. In the quiet darkness of an early American morning, long before the sun has risen above the tree line, the world is still and silent. There are no alarm clocks, no glowing screens, no central heating, only the faint sound of wind nudging the wooden boards of the cabin and the soft rustling of straw under your blanket. You're lying on a mattress stuffed with dried corn husks or straw, which creak faintly with every shift of your body. The blanket is heavy, made of rough wool that scratches ever so slightly. Your breath floats visibly in the cold air. The fire, which had burned low through the night, has gone out completely. The hearth is dark and quiet. There is no warmth yet, only the chill of the room, which settles into your bones as you blink slowly and begin to rise. You're not alone in this one-room cabin. Your entire family, parents, siblings, maybe even grandparents, sleeps in the same space. There is no privacy, just the soft chorus of snoring, shifting, and sleepy murmurs. In the corner, a baby stirs in a cradle made from smooth branches, wrapped in layers of worn cloth. Somewhere nearby, a mouse scurries behind a cupboard. Getting out of bed is not a fast process. You must sit up slowly, rub your eyes with cold hands, and wrap yourself in whatever outer garment you wore the day before. Clothes are not plentiful. Most people owned one, maybe 2 sets. The air is cold, the floor even colder. Wooden planks chill your bare feet as you fumble for your shoes, stiff leather, slightly damp, and always just a little uncomfortable. You don't make a sound. It's still too early. The day has not yet begun in full, but the work already looms. Someone must light the fire. It might be you. Lighting the morning fire means crouching beside the hearth, arranging kindling carefully, and striking flint against steel to coax a spark. It may take several tries. Your hands are stiff. Your breath fogs in front of you. When the first orange ember catches and the tiniest flame flickers to life, it is like waking the heart of the home. Slowly, ever so slowly, warmth will return to the room. But not yet. For now, the cabin remains wrapped in that same heavy silence. And the chill remains in the corners, on the walls, under the bed, and in your sleeves. This was the start of every day in early America. Part 2: The straw mattress and the lumpy blanket. The mattress you sleep on in early America is not quite what you might expect. There are no memory foams, no sprains, no carefully engineered lumbar support. What you have is a sack, often sewn from linen or burlap, filled with whatever could be gathered, most often straw, hay, or dried corn husks. Over time, the contents settle unevenly. Some places are firm, almost hard, while others sink in awkward hollows. You shift gently in the night to avoid the lump that always seems to sit directly under your hip. But still, you sleep, because there is little choice. And this is what sleep has always meant. The mattress lies on a simple frame, or sometimes just the floor. Ropes or wooden slats may support it, and every few weeks, the ropes must be tightened to prevent sagging. That's where the saying, "sleep tight," comes from, tightening the ropes under the bed. Your pillow is a small bag of feathers, if you are lucky. Otherwise, it might be filled with more straw, or even bundled rags. It's not soft, exactly, but it's familiar. Covering you is a wool blanket, thick and hand-woven, possibly dyed a dull brown or gray. It smells faintly of lanolin and smoke. If it rains or snows, the wool traps the moisture slightly, never quite drying by morning. The texture is coarse. It doesn't invite you to touch it, it merely does its job of keeping out the cold. Beneath the blanket, you sleep in your undergarments, or even your day clothes. Especially in winter, there is no heating at night. The fire has long since died down. Only body heat and the heaviness of the blanket offer warmth. Sometimes mice rustle beneath the mattress. Sometimes, if you're close to the wall, you feel the cold stones or logs behind your back. You don't flinch, you just shift slightly and go on resting. There is no nightstand, no lamp, no glass of water, just the shape of the room in darkness, and the sounds of others breathing near you. The mattress doesn't remember you. It has no contour to fit. Every night, it is simply a place to lie still and wait for sleep. And every morning, you rise slowly from it, your back perhaps stiff, your blanket heavy with the weight of another cold night past. Part 3: Getting dressed without buttons or comfort. The process of getting dressed in early America is slow, deliberate, and not at all cozy. There are no zippers, no stretchy fabrics, no soft cotton t-shirts waiting on the edge of your bed. Clothes are handmade, often patched, and always a bit stiff. They are worn because they must be, not because they feel good. You begin with your underlayers, long, loose undergarments made from coarse linen or homespun wool. These are not fitted. They are long shirts or shifts, usually white or off-white, though never truly clean by modern standards. They itch slightly, and the seams rub against your skin in places that remind you all day that you're wearing them. Next come stockings. These are pulled up to your knees, held in place by ribbon garters or bits of cloth. They sag, wrinkle, and sometimes bunch at the ankle, but you pull them up anyway, smoothing them with cold fingers. Trousers or breeches follow, woolen, usually, and not particularly soft. They button or tie at the knee, sometimes with wooden toggles or bits of bone. They must be secured just right or they'll sag throughout the day. You bend, tug, adjust, and fasten. If you're a woman, you slip on a long skirt or petticoat, usually wool or heavy linen. It wraps around your waist and ties at the back with cords. Over that, perhaps an apron, to protect the one skirt you own from the work ahead. Shirts are next, long-sleeved, with simple collars and laces instead of buttons. Buttons are rare and precious, often made of pewter or carved wood. Most garments fasten with ties or pins, if you're lucky enough to own buttons. They're few, and never decorative. Your outerwear is just as rough. A vest, perhaps, or a stays corset if you're a woman. Then a heavy wool coat, if it's winter, with sleeves that restrict your movement just enough to be noticed. Your shoes are stiff leather. There is no left or right, just two nearly identical shoes that mold to your feet slowly over months. They are noisy, hard-soled, and never quite dry. If they pinch, you endure it. If they squeak, you simply keep walking. There is no mirror in most cabins. If there is one, it's small and slightly warped. But it doesn't matter. No one dresses for appearance. You dress to survive the weather and the work. Nothing more. By the time you're dressed, you feel the weight of the layers. You feel the itch of wool and the rub of seams. You are warm, but never quite comfortable. And already, you are tired. Because getting dressed in early America is not a beginning, it's just the first chore of the day. Part 4: The long walk to the outhouse, if you had one. In early America, answering nature's call was not a private, comfortable affair. There were no tiled bathrooms, no flush handles, no soft toilet paper in tidy rolls. There was, instead, a short walk, sometimes long, through the cold morning air to a small wooden shack behind the house. If your family had built an outhouse, you were already considered fortunate. Many did not have one at all. In such cases, people simply found a spot behind a tree, near a hedge, or down a path worn into the earth by quiet routine. Rain or shine, snow or heat, when the time came, you walked. If you had an outhouse, it was simple, just a tall, narrow box made of uneven boards. Set a little away from the home. It leaned slightly to one side. The door creaked. Inside, the seat was just a wooden bench with a hole in the middle. Beneath that hole, a pit. Not a clean pit, just a pit. There were no lights. You brought a lantern if it was dark. There was no ventilation, only a small opening near the roof. The smell, especially in summer, was ever present, and flies always found their way in. Toilet paper didn't exist. Instead, a stack of leaves, some rags, or perhaps an old newspaper would be used. Corn cobs, too, were common, dried and soft, but not particularly gentle. The cold was often the worst part. In winter, the seat froze. You moved quickly, but carefully. In summer, mosquitoes gathered in the corners. In autumn, the floorboards creaked under your boots, damp with morning dew. Privacy was minimal. The outhouse door often didn't have a lock. You knocked gently before entering. Sometimes you waited, sometimes you didn't wait long enough. Everyone used the same outhouse. Parents, children, grandparents, guests. It was not a place to linger. It was a necessity, and nothing more. When you were done, you stepped back into the fresh air, if it could be called that, and began the walk back toward the house. Your boots carried the scent of wet grass and old leaves. The wind touched your cheeks, and the cabin drew closer in the blue morning light. This was not an inconvenience. It was simply the way things were. You didn't question it. You didn't expect more. You simply accepted the outhouse for what it was, a cold, wooden reminder that comfort had not yet arrived. Part 5: Cold porridge and weak coffee, breakfast of the brave. By the time you return from the outhouse, the fire has begun to wake. It flickers lazily in the hearth, offering a fragile warmth that barely reaches the far corners of the cabin. Shadows stretch long across the wooden floor, and the smell of smoke drifts softly in the air. It's time for breakfast. There is no sizzling bacon, no golden toast, no sweet aroma of fresh pastries. Instead, there is porridge, again. It was porridge yesterday. It will be porridge tomorrow. Made from oats, or perhaps cornmeal if that's what you have. It simmers slowly in an iron pot hung above the fire. Water is added, maybe a splash of milk, if the cow gave enough that morning. Salt is stirred in sparingly. Sugar is rare. Honey is even rarer. Most mornings, it is plain, just warm, soft, and grayish in color. Sometimes, if you are late to the pot, what you find is not warm at all. The porridge has cooled, congealed slightly at the edges, and formed a thin skin on top. You stir it again, but the cold has settled in. You eat it anyway. Coffee exists, but not the kind you're used to. The beans are roasted unevenly, ground roughly, and boiled in water until it is bitter and pale. It is not strong, it is not smooth, but it is hot, and that's enough. Some settlers didn't even have coffee. They drank a hot drink made of roasted chicory root, or dandelion, or just warm water flavored with molasses. It doesn't matter. It's something to hold in a wooden mug while your hands thaw in the morning cold. You eat sitting on a wooden stool, or maybe a bench. There is no tablecloth, just a plank table, worn smooth from years of meals just like this one. Everyone eats in silence. There is little conversation. Words are saved for later. Children eat first, if they are awake, then adults. Sometimes the family eats together. Sometimes, one by one, as chores pull them away. There is no rush, but also, no lingering. When the bowl is empty, you set it aside. There is no second serving. You wipe it with a bit of bread, or rinse it in cold water. There is always something to do next. Breakfast in early America is not a moment of joy. It is a moment of motion. It gives you just enough strength to face the day ahead, quiet, long, and filled with labor. And tomorrow, it will be the same. Part 6: The chore list that never ends. In early America, there is no such thing as a day without chores. From the moment the fire is lit and the porridge is eaten, The day begins to unfold, not in excitement, but in a quiet rhythm of tasks that stretch from sunup to sundown. There is no weekend, there is no rest day. Except perhaps on Sunday, when rest means sitting quietly in a wooden pew for hours. Not napping under a tree. Chores are not optional. They are as essential as breathing. First comes water. Buckets must be filled at the well or creek. Carried back slowly, 2 at a time. The handles dig into your fingers. The water sloshes with every step. Some is for cooking, some for washing, some for the animals. It all must be fetched. Next is firewood. The pile must be restocked every morning. That means chopping, if the logs are ready, or hauling from the woods. Sometimes it means splitting frozen branches in the cold. Always, it means carrying, stacking, and getting small splinters in your hands. If you have animals, they come next. Chickens need feeding. Eggs must be gathered. Cows must be milked twice a day. Every day. Pigs must be sloughed. The barn must be swept. Fences must be checked for breaks. If you are tending crops, the fields call to you. In spring, you till and plant. In summer, you weed. In autumn, you harvest. In winter, you plan. There is always something. The ground never rests for long. Children have chores too. They fetch kindling, gather herbs, dry corn, turn the butter churn, shell peas, sweep floors, scare crows from the fields. No one is idle, and no one is exempt. Inside the cabin, there is spinning, sewing, soap making, candle pouring, cooking, and preserving. Each task is slow, repetitive, and done entirely by hand. If the chore isn't done today, it simply waits for tomorrow and grows heavier. Tools break, they must be mended. Clothes tear, they must be stitched. Everything wears down, and everything must be fixed by the same hands that use them. There is no end, only pauses. The list of chores is not written on paper, it's etched into every hour of the day. One leads into the next, like footsteps in a path worn smooth by time. And somehow, it all gets done, not quickly, not easily, but steadily, as the sun moves across the sky. Part 7: Hauling water one bucket at a time. Water, in early America, never comes from a faucet. It does not flow with the turn of a handle. It is not hot unless heated by flame. And it is never close unless you bring it there. Fetching water is a chore done daily, often several times a day. It begins with a pair of wooden or metal buckets and a steady walk to the nearest source, usually a well, a spring, or a nearby creek. The well might be in your yard. It might also be half a mile down a winding path. Sometimes you walk barefoot. Sometimes the ground is muddy, or icy, or so dry that dust clings to your ankles. But you walk anyway. When you reach the well, the work has just begun. You lower the bucket by rope, slowly, listening to the creak of the pulley, the soft splash as the bucket hits the surface far below. You wait, then, hand over hand, you pull it back up, heavy with water, droplets falling from its sides. You fill your pails carefully. If you spill it, you'll have to come back again. Then comes the walk back home. The buckets swing at your sides. If they are made of wood, they may leak slightly, dampening your skirt or pants. If they are metal, the handles dig sharply into your hands. You carry them as far as you can, then rest, then carry again. No one thinks of this as difficult. It is simply what must be done. The water is used for everything: cooking, washing, cleaning, feeding animals, making soap, soaking beans, boiling herbs. It disappears quickly. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. Sometimes children carry it, sometimes the elderly, but mostly, it's whoever has the arms and the strength to manage it. The weight of water becomes familiar. You know the slosh and shift of every step. You know the exact tilt needed to keep the pail balanced. You learn to breathe evenly as you go. It is not a fast job, but it has a rhythm. The sound of footsteps, the creak of the bucket handle, the quiet gurgle of water settling, and in the stillness of the morning, these small sounds fill the silence. No one claps when the water is set down beside the hearth. No one cheers. You simply nod to yourself and move on to the next chore. Because in early America, the only way water comes to you is if you go and get it. Part 8. Firewood first. Always firewood. Before anything else can happen in early America, there must be firewood. No meal can be cooked. No water warmed. No candle dipped. No clothes dried. No comfort found until the fire is burning. And for the fire to burn, there must be wood. Dry wood. Cut, split, stacked, and ready. This chore never ends. Each day, someone must gather it. Sometimes that means walking to the edge of the woods with an axe and a wagon. Other times, it means splitting logs already cut. But always, it means carrying it back, armful after armful. If the wood is green, it won't burn. If it's too wet, it will hiss and smoke. If it's too short, it won't fit in the hearth. Each log must be just right, seasoned, dry, and cut to size. Splitting wood is steady work. You set the log upright on a stump. You raise the axe above your head. You bring it down with both hands. Over and over. The crack of wood echoes in the still air. Chips fly. Your arms tire slowly. Sometimes, the axe gets stuck. You rock it back and forth. Sometimes the log splits unevenly. You start again. There is no hurry. Just repetition. Children carry smaller pieces. They stack them by the door in neat piles. Older ones try their hand at chopping, learning the rhythm of the tool. It is a chore passed from hand to hand, day after day. Firewood must also be protected. If it gets wet in the rain, it must be dried again. If snow falls, you dig it out. If you forget to gather it the day before, you rise early to make up for it. In winter, you burn more. The fire never stops. It must be fed all day. And through the night, someone may need to stir the coals so it doesn't die. You can never have enough wood. The stack by the door is never high enough. The pile behind the house is never too large. Firewood is the invisible clock of the household. When it's low, time is running out. So before you milk the cow, before you sweep the floor, before you sew or clean or cook, you gather the wood. Because without fire, the day cannot begin. Part 9. A visit to the root cellar. Dim, damp, and full of turnips. The root cellar is not a place you visit for pleasure. It is not warm, not bright, and not particularly welcoming, but it holds something far more important than comfort: food for the winter. In early America, without refrigeration, the root cellar is what stands between a family and hunger. Usually dug into a hillside or built beneath the home, the cellar is cool all year long, dark, damp, and always a little musty. A wooden door, often heavy and swollen from moisture, groans as you pull it open. A set of stairs descends into shadow. You walk carefully. The steps are sometimes dirt, sometimes stone. They're often slippery. The air smells of earth, potatoes, and something faintly sour. There is no light, except what you carry: a small lantern, maybe a candle. Shelves line the walls, stacked with glass jars, wooden crates, and burlap sacks. Each shelf holds something grown, picked, preserved, or dug up many weeks before. You see rows of canned beans, jars of pickled vegetables, crocks of sauerkraut, baskets of apples now going soft at the edges. There are carrots layered in sand, cabbages wrapped in cloth, and onions hanging from twine. But most of all, there are turnips. So many turnips. Turnips in bins, turnips in barrels, turnips rolling loose across the floor. Pale, knobby, and always a little damp. They store well. That's why there are so many. You move slowly. You lift a sack of potatoes. You check for rot. You wipe mold from a jar lid. You press your fingers into a squash to see if it's still good. Everything must be examined. Nothing can be wasted. Sometimes you come down here just to plan the next meal. Other times, you're sent with a list: 2 onions, a jar of pickles, and 1 large beet. But always, you return carrying something heavier than you came in with. The cold air clings to your clothes as you climb the steps. You push open the door and blink into the light. It's still morning, there's still more to do. And the root cellar waits. Always dim, always damp, always full of turnips. Part 10: Washing clothes by beating them against rocks. In early America, washing clothes is not a weekly task. It is an ordeal, a half-day commitment, sometimes longer. There are no washing machines, no soap pods, no soft settings, just a stream, a tub, some soap, and your hands. Laundry day begins early. Water must be hauled first, buckets from the well or stream. Again and again, until the wash tub is full. If it's winter, you may have to break a crust of ice. If it's summer, you may sweat before you even begin. Soap is homemade, lye soap, sharp, rough, and never gentle. It burns small cuts and stings the eyes. It is cut into hard bars and rubbed across wet cloth. No fragrance, no foam, just grit and sting and effort. Clothes are soaked, then scrubbed, laid across a washboard, if you're lucky enough to own one. Otherwise, they are beaten, on rocks beside a stream, against stumps near the barn. The goal is simple, to remove dirt. The process is not. You kneel in the grass, your sleeves rolled, arms wet to the elbows. You scrub until your fingers wrinkle. You twist fabric with force. You slap heavy skirts onto stone. Again and again, it echoes like dull drum beats in the open air. The stains do not always come out. The water never truly runs clear. But it is cleaner than before. And that is enough. Once clean, the clothes must be rinsed, then wrung out, then carried to a line strung between trees or wooden posts. Pinned with wooden clothespins or just draped over branches. They sway in the breeze. If the sun is out, they dry slowly. If clouds gather, they may stay damp all day. The whole time, you are stooping, lifting, twisting, waiting, hoping the wind holds, hoping the rain stays away, hoping the soap doesn't run out. And when it's all done, when the last damp sock is fluttering in the wind, you wipe your hands on your apron. Feel the sting of lye in your skin, and look out across the field. The wash is done, for now. But soon, clothes will be dirty again. The baby will spill broth. The farmer will come home covered in mud. The rain will soak the hem of your only dress. And the rocks by the stream will be waiting. Part 11: Lye soap, burningly clean. There is nothing luxurious about soap in early America. It is not gentle. It is not fragrant. It does not come in colorful wrappers or sit in decorative dishes. It is lye soap, simple, sharp, and made at home. Making it is its own chore. You begin with ashes, not just any ashes, hardwood ashes, gathered carefully from the hearth. These are poured into a barrel or large wooden tub. Water is slowly added, drop by drop, until it trickles through the ash. The result is lye, a caustic, clear liquid that stings if touched and burns if spilled. Lye alone is dangerous, but mixed with fat, saved from cooking, trimming meat, or rendering animal tallow, it becomes soap. The mixture is heated in a large kettle. It must be stirred constantly. The smell is sharp and sour. The heat is intense. You must watch it closely. If it boils over, it can scar. If it cools too soon, it won't harden. If the ratio is wrong, the soap will burn the skin. When done correctly, it thickens, slowly, into a soft gray sludge. It is poured into wooden molds or flat trays and left to cool. It hardens over a day or two. Then, it is cut into blocks, no two the same. Rough edges, uneven sides, no scent, no softness. The result is powerful, too powerful. Sometimes, lye soap scrubs away dirt, oil, and anything else it touches. But it also scrapes at the skin. Hands grow red and dry after use. Cuts sting for hours. Even clothes feel slightly stiff after washing. Still, it is essential. You use it to wash your body, your clothes, your dishes, your floor. There is no alternative. You make a batch and hope it lasts. Some families make it once a month, others once a season. It is not used with joy. It is used because there is no choice. And when a block is finally used up, worn down to a small, slippery shard. You set it aside in a tin box. Gather more ash from the hearth. And begin again. Lye soap, burningly clean, and always waiting beside the basin. Part 12. Shoes made of leather, nails, and regret. Shoes in early America are not made for comfort. They are made to last, and even then, they barely do. There is no cushioning, no padding, no soft arch support, just leather, a few iron nails, and the simple hope that they hold together another season. They are stiff from the start. A new pair of shoes is not a delight. It is a burden to be broken in. The leather is thick, unyielding, and shaped not by foot molds, but by guesswork and time. There is no left shoe or right shoe at first. They are nearly identical. You wear them until your feet teach them the difference. Putting them on is not easy. The tongue bunches. The laces are leather thongs, often hard to pull. The edges scrape at your ankles. They creak loudly with every step. They are heavy, and they pinch. If it rains, the leather soaks and stays wet. If it's dry, it cracks. In winter, the soles freeze. In summer, they sweat. If the shoes are worn too long without rest, they begin to split at the seams. But there is no new pair waiting. Just a needle, a bit of pitch, and your own stitching. Children wear shoes until their toes push through. Adults patch them again and again. Some people stuff the insides with straw. Others tie them on with extra string. And when a sole finally gives out, you walk barefoot or you limp. Going barefoot isn't rare. In fact, it's common. Many simply remove their shoes while doing chores to save wear. But the ground is not forgiving. It is rocky, root-tangled, muddy, or frozen. Splinters, thorns, and sharp stones remind you that shoes, uncomfortable as they are, still serve their purpose. Some families trade shoes between siblings. Some have only one pair each for Sundays and special occasions. Everyday work is done barefoot, until frost or blisters make that impossible. Inside the home, shoes sit by the hearth to dry. They lean to one side. The leather curls slightly at the edges. The soles smell of earth and ash. But still, they are pulled on again the next day, creaking, pinching, and holding you to the ground. In early America, a good pair of shoes is a triumph. A tolerable pair is a blessing. And most shoes are just what you have. Part 13. Flies, mosquitoes, and itchy wool in summer. Summer in early America is not refreshing. It is not a season of fans and lemonade. It is long days of still heat, sticky sweat, and a constant buzzing in your ears. The cabin is hot from morning until night. The windows, if they open at all, let in more bugs than breeze. The air inside hangs heavy with the smell of drying herbs, simmering stew, and bodies hard at work. There is no escape from the warmth, only shade. And even that feels warm. Flies are everywhere. They gather near the kitchen, buzzing around bowls of porridge and meat left to cool. They land on arms, faces, and clothing. You swat at them, but they return. No screens, no traps, just the hope they move along. The sound of their wings becomes part of the background noise of the day. Mosquitoes come at dusk. They rise from the grass, the stream, the barrels of water near the house. Their hum begins quietly, then builds. You try to cover your skin, but the heat makes that unbearable. So you sit still, hoping they choose someone else. You might burn herbs near the door, or hang dried bundles of pennyroyal in the windows. But nothing truly keeps them out. The worst part, though, is the wool. Even in summer, there is little else to wear. Light cotton is rare, expensive, and reserved for special items. For everyday work, it's wool, scratchy, thick, and always a little too warm. It clings to your back as you sweat. It sticks behind your knees. It holds the scent of the day, smoke, salt, and sun. You roll up the sleeves. You open the collar, but still, it itches. And still, it's what you wear. Children run barefoot through the grass, arms covered in bites. Women fan themselves slowly with folded paper or palm leaves. Men wipe their foreheads with rough kerchiefs. Then go back to chopping wood, or mending fences, or hoeing rows of beans. There is no air conditioning, no ice, just a jug of lukewarm water on the table and a patch of shade under the tree. At night, you lie on your straw mattress. The blanket is kicked aside. The window is cracked open. The sound of crickets hums outside. A mosquito whines in your ear. You swat, miss, and settle again. Summer in early America is not unbearable. It is simply hot, itchy, and full of buzzing things. And tomorrow, it will be just the same. Part 14 Mud Season. That's just spring. Spring in early America is not all flowers and birdsong. It is not a fresh breeze through open windows or soft grass beneath your feet. It is mostly mud. Mud in the yard. Mud in the fields. Mud on your shoes. Mud on your skirt hem. Mud everywhere. They called it mud season. And it came every year, quietly, without fail, as the snow melted and the ground, long frozen, gave way. First it softened, then it turned to slush. Then, finally, it became deep, clinging, shoe-stealing mud. You try to walk around it, but there's no avoiding it. The paths are slick. The ruts from wagon wheels fill with brown water. Chickens wade through puddles, feathers wet and sticking to their legs. The laundry line sags, and so do spirits. Boots get stuck, literally stuck. You take a step, and your foot pulls free. But the shoe does not. You go back, retrieve it, and keep walking. Slower now. Every step comes with a wet sound. Schloop, schlup, schluck. Inside the cabin, the floor tells the story. Footprints in every size. Smudges by the door. A damp scent of earth lingers where the fire once warmed the space. You try to sweep, but the broom clogs. You wipe with rags. You mop with buckets. And it all returns the next day. Children track mud onto the bed linens. Dogs lie down in the corner. Bellies soaked. Firewood is damp and doesn't burn well. The root cellar floods. The well water gets cloudy. Everything is wet, and nothing dries. The sky is gray for days. Sometimes it rains gently. Sometimes it pours. The roof drips in new places. A pot is placed to catch the leak. Then another. But still, the mud. You don't complain. There's no point. It's always been this way. It always will be. You know it will pass. Eventually, the sun will return. The ground will dry. And by then, it will be time to plant the beans. Until then, you simply step carefully, scrape your boots with a stick, and accept that in early America, spring doesn't begin with blossoms, it begins with mud. Part 15 A trip to the town, 2 hours on foot or horse. In early America, going into town is not a quick errand. It is not a 5-minute drive or a quick stroll down the sidewalk. It is an event, a decision, a half-day journey, there and back, if the road is dry and you leave early. For most families, the nearest town might be 5, 10, even 15 miles away. The road is not paved. It is not even always a road, sometimes. It's a trail, sometimes. It's just packed dirt between trees. If it rained the day before, it's rutted and slick. If it's dry, it's dusty and full of holes. You can walk. Many do. You start before sunrise, with a basket or a sack over your shoulder. You wear your best shoes, though they pinch a little. The ground is uneven. The pace is slow. The sun rises as you go. Or, if you're lucky, you ride a horse, or sit on a wooden cart pulled by one. The cart jolts over every rock. The boards creak. You hold onto your hat or your bonnet as the wind rushes past. You don't make the trip for fun. You go because you need something. A spool of thread. A pound of salt. A bolt of cloth. Maybe news from the post. Maybe to sell eggs. Or butter. Or a few carved wooden spoons. The town itself is not large. A few wooden buildings. A general store. A tavern. A blacksmith. Maybe a church or a schoolhouse. The street is muddy or dry, depending on the season. Chickens wander freely. Children run barefoot. A dog naps in the shade by a barrel. You step inside the store. It smells of tobacco, flour, and molasses. Shelves are lined with tins, cloth, buttons, nails, jars, and tools. The shopkeeper nods. No one is in a hurry. You trade, if you can. Barter a dozen eggs for a bit of soap. Exchange wool for a tin pot. Coins are rare, and every purchase is careful. You don't browse. You buy what you came for. Sometimes you talk with a neighbor. News spreads slowly here. Births, deaths, weather, politics, prices. You nod. You listen. Then you start the long walk home. By then, the sun is high. The road is warmer. Your shoes feel tighter. You carry what you bought in the same basket. A little heavier now. You arrive tired. You set your things down. You sit for a moment. Then it's time to cook, sweep, gather eggs, and begin the rest of your day. Because a trip to town, in early America, takes the morning, and the chores don't wait just because you've been gone. Part 16: The Tiny Schoolhouse and the Loud Chalk. In early America, education does not happen in large buildings with bells and rows of desks. It happens in a one-room schoolhouse, built from plain timber, set back from the road, with a small window on each side and a creaky front door. It is quiet, it is small, and it smells faintly of ink, smoke, and wood polish. There is only one room. Everyone sits together, children aged 6 to 16, brothers, sisters, neighbors, all learning side by side. There are no grade levels, no lockers, no hallways, just rows of benches, a blackboard, and the sound of chalk. The teacher is often young, sometimes only a few years older than the oldest students. They arrive early to light the stove, sweep the floor, and prepare the lesson. Pay is low, expectations are high. There is no curriculum, just reading, writing, arithmetic, and the Bible. The blackboard takes up one wall. It is not smooth. It is often just painted wood. The chalk is thick, rough, and makes a loud, scratchy sound as it writes. Children wince sometimes as the squeak echoes through the room. Lessons are simple. You copy the alphabet. You recite multiplication tables. You read from primers, holding the book carefully with both hands. If you're lucky, there are enough slates to go around. You do your sums with a worn piece of chalk. Then wipe the slate clean with a bit of cloth or your own sleeve. There are no pens. Quills must be sharpened. Ink is homemade, or brought from town in small bottles. Mistakes cannot be erased, only scratched out or crossed through. There is no lunchroom. You bring food in a tin pail, usually bread and something salted. You eat outside if the weather allows. If not, you sit on the bench with your coat on and your hands in your lap. Discipline is strict. Talking out of turn may earn a stern word. Misbehavior earns a swat from a wooden ruler, or the dreaded dunce cap in the corner. But mostly, children sit still, not because they're perfectly behaved, but because the benches are narrow, and there's nowhere else to go. School begins at sunrise and ends just before dusk. Then, it's a walk home, sometimes a mile or more, in mud or snow or summer heat. There are no report cards, no standardized tests, just the slow accumulation of letters formed better than yesterday, and numbers added with a little more speed. The schoolhouse is small, but it holds dreams, discipline, and the sound of chalk on wood, scratching knowledge into the stillness. One line at a time. Part 17: The Smell of the Tannery by the Creek. In early America, every town needs a tannery. It is where raw animal hides are turned into usable leather, thick, sturdy, and ready for shoes, belts, aprons, and harnesses. But no one lives near the tannery if they can help it. Because the tannery smells. It sits at the edge of town, usually near a creek or stream. Water is essential to the process. And the process, though practical, is not pleasant. It begins with hides, fresh from slaughter. Still soft, still damp, still heavy. They arrive in bundles, folded roughly, sometimes with hair still clinging. They are soaked first, in vats of water and lime to loosen the hair. The lime burns slightly if it touches skin. Then comes the scraping. Each hide is stretched over a wooden beam, and the tanner uses a curved knife to shave away the hair, the fat, the tissue, everything that isn't leather. The sound is soft but steady, a rhythmic rasping, like sandpaper over wood. The hairless hides are then soaked in tannin-rich solutions. These might come from oak bark, chestnut, hemlock, or even certain berries. The tannin seeps slowly into the skin, toughening it, but the bark must be ground first, and the hides must soak for weeks. Some tanneries use other methods. They soak hides in mixtures of animal brains, old urine, or dung. These break down the fibers, and they smell exactly as you might expect. The creek runs beside it all, carrying runoff downstream, dark and murky, with bits of bark and waste floating silently past. No one drinks from this creek. Few go near it, but the tannery needs it, and so it stays. The workers wear aprons. Their hands are always stained. Their boots are always wet. They are quiet, mostly, focused on the work, on the hides hanging from wooden racks to dry, on the turning of leathers from pale flesh to deep brown. No perfumes mask the scent. No fences block the flies. But the leather, when it is finished, is strong. It creaks when bent. It lasts for years. It holds shoes together and saddles in place. It is worth the effort and the smell. Still, when you walk past the tannery, eyes watering slightly, nose turned to your shoulder, you walk a little quicker. You don't stop. You don't linger. Because in early America, the tannery is a place you need, but never want to visit. Part 18: Making Candles, Hot Wax and Slow Work. In early America, there is no switch to flip when the sun goes down. No electric hum. No soft glow from a bedside lamp. There are only candles, small, flickering lights made by hand, one at a time, over a hot pot of wax. Candle making is not a glamorous craft. It is slow, repetitive, and slightly dangerous, but it is necessary. Without candles, the night is long and dark. There are two common materials, tallow and beeswax. Tallow is made from rendered animal fat, thick, white, and heavy. It is easier to find, but it smells faintly of smoke and meat when burned. Beeswax is better. It burns longer, smells sweeter, but is harder to come by. A family might save beeswax for church candles or special occasions. The process begins with wicks, usually made from twisted cotton or flax. They are tied to a wooden rod, several inches apart, and hung like laundry over a frame. A pot of wax or tallow is heated over the fire. It bubbles gently, thick and hot. The smell fills the room, earthy and sharp if it's tallow, warm and floral if it's beeswax. You take the wicks and dip them, slowly, one after another, down into the hot wax. Then back up. The wax clings, thin at first. You wait, you dip again, and again. Each time, the candle thickens by just a little. It may take 20 or 30 dips to build a usable candle. You cannot rush. If you dip too quickly, the wax cracks. If you dip too slowly, the old layers melt off. You must find the rhythm: dip, lift, hang, wait, dip, lift, hang, wait. Children may help with the cooling. Someone fans the candles gently to speed the process. Others trim the bottoms flat or shape the tips. The candles must be even or they will burn poorly. When finished, they are cut down from the rods and stored in baskets or hung in rows along the wall. Their pale, waxy color glows faintly in the firelight. Some lean slightly. Some have bubbles inside, but all will burn. A candle lasts a few hours at most. You do not light them freely. One or two at a time. Carefully trimmed, watched closely. Light, in early America, is precious. And each flicker comes from many slow hours, standing by the fire. Dipping one wick after another into hot wax and patience. Part 19: The Midday Meal, Salt Pork and Yesterday's Beans. By midday in early America, work has already filled the morning. Arms are tired, hands are calloused, the sun stands high, and the shadows are short. It is time to pause, but not for long. The midday meal is not a feast. It is not full of color or spice. It is warm, simple, and often the same as the day before. Salt pork is the centerpiece. Not fresh pork, not juicy or tender, just pork preserved in salt, stored in barrels in the cellar or shed. It is thick with fat, deeply salty, and firm to the bite. Before cooking, it must be soaked or boiled, or the salt overwhelms everything. But even then, the taste is heavy, not unpleasant, just strong. Beside the pork are beans, usually dried, often stewed the day before and warmed again now. Navy beans, pinto, black, or white, whatever grew best that season. They are soft, plain, and filling, sometimes flavored with a bit of onion or a spoonful of lard. Nothing more. There might be bread, coarse and brown, made from whole grain or cornmeal. Hard crust, dense center, served with butter, if there's any left from the last churning, or perhaps just dipped in bean broth. On rare days, there's a turnip, or pickled cabbage, or cold potatoes from breakfast, sliced and fried if the fire is hot enough. But most often, it's just what was already cooked, and what will keep everyone going until evening. The family gathers quietly. No forks clink against plates. There are no plates, usually, just wooden bowls and tin cups. A ladle passes from hand to hand. Children eat first, then adults. Conversation is slow. There is no music, no rushing, no phones, only chewing, the occasional murmur, and the gentle crackle of the fire. The food is not hot, not cold, just warm enough. The meal ends quickly. There is still much to do. Fields to weed, cows to check, soap to cut, grain to sift. You set your spoon aside, wipe your mouth with your sleeve, and rise slowly. The midday meal is not a moment of joy or celebration. It is simply a pause, a breath in the long rhythm of the day. And tomorrow, it will be the same. Salt pork, yesterday's beans, and the steady work that waits just outside the door. Part 20. Afternoon in the field, hoeing, sowing, sweating. After the midday meal, there is no nap, no quiet hour, no retreat from the sun. There is only the field and the long, slow work that always waits. Hoeing, sowing, sweating, step by step, row by row, inch by inch. The fields are never small. They stretch beyond the garden fence, across slopes and ridges, following the land's uneven rhythm. The soil is not soft. It is dry in summer, clumpy in spring, and often stubborn. Stones hide beneath the surface. Roots reach sideways. Each step sinks a little. You begin with a hoe. The blade is dull from use, the handle worn smooth by years of palms gripping in silence. You swing, lift, tap, and scrape, cutting shallow trenches into the dirt. One row, then another, then another. The sun leans forward, casting no shade. Children help, if they can, pulling weeds, dropping seeds, carrying baskets of cut grass. Their small hands learn the pattern early. Their feet follow the furrows slowly, like shadows. Seeds are sown by hand. Fingers pinch, scatter, press, corn, beans, squash, turnips, maybe a few rows of cabbage if there's room. The planting is quiet, careful, and repetitive, not rushed, not slow, just steady. Emotion learned so deeply it no longer needs thinking. Your back aches, your neck burns. The sweat begins behind your ears and works its way down your spine. You wipe your forehead with your sleeve. Dust clings to your hands, your arms, your eyebrows. There is no wind today, only heat. There is no audience, only silence. Sometimes you hear a bird, sometimes the creak of a wheelbarrow, sometimes the far-off thump of someone chopping wood. But mostly, it's just the soft scrape of metal in soil and the occasional sigh. You do not count hours. You count rows. You do not chase time. You chase daylight. By late afternoon, your body is heavy. Your shirt sticks to your skin. The seed bag is lighter now. The rows stretch behind you like quiet proof of effort. You look once more at the ground, brown, uneven, covered in hopeful lines. Then you lift the hoe and begin the next row. Because in early America, the field waits for no one, and the work, like the earth, is always ready. Part 21: The Mystery of Colonial Dentistry. In early America, if your tooth begins to ache, there is little you can do except wait, and hope it goes away, or doesn't get worse, or doesn't spread. Because dentistry, at the time, is not a profession, it is an event. There are no clinics, no reclining chairs, no minty polish or gentle suction tubes. There are no x-rays, no sterilized tools, no anesthesia, just pain and the possibility of more pain. Tooth care begins, simply, with prevention. People clean their teeth with twigs, chewed on one end until soft, then rubbed across the surface. Some use cloth dipped in salt or ashes. Baking soda, if available. There are no toothbrushes, no toothpaste, no floss. Sugar is expensive, but when it is used, it clings to teeth. Decay comes slowly, then suddenly. A sharp pang while chewing, a dull throb in the jaw, a sudden crack in the night. There are few people trained to help. A traveling barber might offer extractions. A blacksmith might own the right tools. Sometimes, a neighbor simply volunteers. The only qualification is willingness and a steady hand. The solution to a bad tooth is often simple: remove it. There is no numbing gel, no warning. You sit in a chair, or on a crate, or perhaps just the ground. Someone holds your shoulders, someone else holds your jaw. The tool, iron, cold, not especially clean, is clamped over the tooth. Then, a pull. Maybe one, maybe several. It depends on the day. There is blood, sometimes a lot. The mouth swells. The pain lingers for hours, or days, but the aching stops, eventually, and the tooth is gone. Sometimes people make their own remedies, rinses with vinegar, or clove oil, or spirits. They press hot cloths to the cheek. They chew soft herbs. They pray. If a person loses many teeth, they may go without. Dentures are rare, carved from bone, ivory, or even other people's teeth. They fit poorly. They hurt. They click when you speak. But they exist, for those who can afford them. Most people, however, simply adjust. They chew slower, avoid one side, eat softer things, and smile a little less. Because in early America, a toothache is not a matter of scheduling an appointment. It is a mystery, and a gamble, and, more often than not, a lesson in silence. Part 22: When bathing happened once a month. In early America, bathing is not a daily ritual. It is not a relaxing soak, or a warm shower behind a curtain of steam. It is a chore, a production, something planned, prepared, and spaced far apart. Once a month, if you're lucky. Less, if you're not. There is no indoor plumbing, no hot water on demand, no private bathroom. Bathing means hauling water, bucket after bucket, from the well or stream, pouring it into a large iron kettle, heating it over the fire, and then transferring it to a tub. The tub is wooden, round or oval, often narrow and short. You cannot stretch your legs. You sit upright, knees bent, water barely reaching your ribs. The water is never truly hot. It cools quickly in the open room. You bathe fast. There is no lingering. Someone else is likely waiting to use the same water. Soap is harsh, lye-based. It stings small cuts. It strips oil from the skin. Your hair is scrubbed with the same soap. It foams little. It rinses slowly. It leaves everything feeling clean, but not soft. Privacy is limited. Bathing happens in the kitchen or beside the fire. A sheet might be hung. A sibling might be told to look away. But the cabin is small. Everyone knows when it's your turn. The youngest children go first, while the water is cleanest. Then the older ones. Then the parents. By the end, the water is cloudy, lukewarm, and filled with the quiet history of every scrubbed elbow and rinsed toe. Between baths, people wash their faces with cold water in a basin. Hands are cleaned after meals. Feet are rinsed after chores. But full baths? Those are rare. In winter, bathing is colder, and so it happens less. In summer, it might occur outside, beneath a tree, beside a stream, in the privacy of early morning or late dusk. But always quickly, always quietly. Perfume and powders are used when they can be. A bit of lavender, a sachet of herbs, a wipe with a damp cloth behind the ears. Enough to freshen, enough to feel clean enough. Because in early America, bathing is not about relaxation. It is about occasion, and survival, and sharing the same water, one person at a time. Part 23. Homemade everything: butter, soap, thread. In early America, there are no convenience stores, no delivery trucks, no aisles filled with packages and pre-made goods. Everything used in daily life, everything from the bread on the table to the buttons on your shirt, is made by hand. At home, homemade is not a choice. It is the only option. Butter begins as milk. The cow must be milked first, early. Every morning, whether it's raining or snowing, the milk sits in a shallow pan until the cream rises. The cream is skimmed, poured into a churn, and then the slow rhythm begins. Up and down, over and over. The paddle moves through the cream until it thickens. It takes time, sometimes hours. You listen for the faint slosh to turn into a soft thunk. Then, small clumps appear, yellow and solid. You drain the buttermilk, rinse the butter with cold water, and press it into a wooden mold. A pat of butter, made from patience. Soap, too, is made at home. You collect ash for lye, save fat for meals, and boil them together over a fire. The mixture is thick, and the smell is strong. You stir, you wait, you pour, then you cut it into rough bars. The soap is not pretty, but it cleans. Even thread is homemade. You begin with flax or wool. First, it must be combed, cleaned, and carded, then spun, by spindle or spinning wheel. Your hands move slowly, drawing out the fibers into a fine, even line. It twists and winds onto a bobbin. It may take a day to spin enough thread for a single shirt. Candles, too, bread, vinegar, quilts, shoes. Every item around you carries the story of time and effort, and someone's hand shaping it into use. There is pride in this. Quiet pride, the knowing that nothing was wasted, that even scraps became something. That necessity guided the fingers, and patience finished the task. You do not rush. There is no clock to beat. Just the work, always the work. And so, each day, something is made, from scratch, from nature, from knowledge passed down, one generation to the next. In early America, homemade means survival, and survival is always made, one slow step at a time. Part 24. Long skirts, muddy roads, and heavy aprons. In early America, clothes are not chosen for comfort or fashion. They are chosen for necessity, for durability, for modesty, and most of all, for function. For women, this means layers, long skirts, pinned-up sleeves, petticoats beneath, aprons on top. Each garment is heavy, hand-stitched, and worn day after day until it frays. Then patched, and worn again. The skirt is long, not by preference, but by norm. It brushes the tops of shoes. Sometimes it drags across the dirt. If the ground is muddy, the hem gathers it. If the road is uneven, it snags on stones and sticks. You lift it slightly as you walk, but not too high. That wouldn't be proper. Mud clings. In spring, the skirt is always damp. The bottom edge becomes a ribbon of brown. By day's end, it may be stiff with dry dirt. You brush it off. You keep walking. The apron serves as shield and tool. It wipes hands, carries eggs, holds flour, herbs, or a small child's toy. It is always in use. Tied at the waist, it gathers dust, grease, and sometimes tears. There is no such thing as a spare outfit for every day. Most people have 2 or 3 changes of clothing, one for work, one for church, and maybe an old set for mending or scrubbing. You wash only when needed, because washing takes time. Soap, and water that must be carried. On rainy days, the road to the barn becomes a slow march through sludge. On hot days, the fabric clings to your legs. On windy days, you hold your bonnet with one hand and your skirt with the other. The air moves freely around your ankles, but nowhere else. Shoes are stiff and heavy. They do little to keep water out. The hem of your dress might freeze if snow gathers, or soak through if you step in a puddle too deep. Still, you wear the skirt, and the apron, and the layers beneath, because in early America, clothing is not about ease, it's about protection and readiness. The skirts may be long, the aprons may be heavy, but they carry the history of every day's work, one muddy step at a time. Part 25 Evening Chores. Feeding chickens in the dark. Evening in early America does not mean rest. It means one last round of chores, quiet, necessary, and done by fading light. The sky turns slowly from gold to gray. Shadows stretch long across the yard. The sun slips behind the trees, and the air cools gently. But before you can sit, before the fire is stoked for the night, before supper is served, there are chickens to feed. They gather near the co-op, clucking softly, pecking at the ground, waiting. They know your footsteps. They know the sound of grain in a bucket. You carry it in one hand, a scoop of corn, or millet, or whatever is left from the sacks stored in the shed. The bucket is dented. Your fingers are cold. The path is uneven beneath your shoes. There is no lantern at first. You use the last of the daylight. The chickens rustle near your feet. You scatter feed slowly, watching them dart and bob their heads. Some flap their wings. Some stay close. The co-op door creaks as you swing it open. Inside, the roosting bars are low and dusty. Straw covers the floor. You check for eggs, just in case. One, maybe two, still warm in the palm of your hand. You tuck them into your apron. The hens murmur, then settle. If it's winter, you close the co-op tight, shielding against the wind. If it's summer, you leave it cracked for breeze. Either way, you latch the door gently. Out of habit, other chores may still linger, bringing in the last bucket of water. Checking the smokehouse, setting aside tomorrow's bread dough. But the chickens are always part of the end. You walk back to the cabin slowly. The grass is cool. The light has nearly gone. A dog barks in the distance. A cow shifts in the barn. The first stars appear. Inside, the fire is low. A pot simmers quietly. Children read aloud or mend small things. You wipe your hands, set down the bucket, and close the door behind you. Because in early America, the day does not end when the sun goes down. It ends when the chickens are fed. The co-op is quiet, and the last bit of light fades from the sky. Part 26 The one-room cabin and everyone in it. When night settles over early America, you don't retire to your own bedroom. You don't close a door or turn off a light. You simply turn in place. Because home is one room. Just one. The cabin is small. 4 walls. A roof of shingles or thatch. A single window. Maybe 2. One door. One chimney. And inside, everything. And everyone. The hearth is the center. It burns low now, casting shadows across the floorboards. The fire keeps the cold away. It also fills the room with the smell of wood smoke and faint grease from the evening meal. Beds are arranged wherever there is space. A straw mattress in the corner. A trundle bed pulled out for children. A rope-strung frame along the far wall. In some homes, a loft above holds a few blankets and a bundle of soft rags for a pillow. Parents sleep closest to the fire. Children curl up together under shared covers. An infant in a cradle near the foot. There is no privacy. Every sound is shared. Every breath, every sigh, every turn of the blanket. Above, dried herbs hang from the beams. On the walls, shelves with jars. Nails with coats. Pegs with bonnets. The floor is swept, but not clean. A few crumbs remain. A shoe leans sideways. A broom rests in the corner. A chair creaks as someone sits down to mend a sock. A child coughs. Someone whispers a bedtime prayer. The cabin settles with them. You can hear the wind outside, pressing against the wood. Sometimes a branch scrapes the roof. There is no lantern burning now. Only coals. Only the pale light of the moon through the window, painting a soft line across the floor. You lie on your side, listening to the shifting of the straw mattress, to the breathing of the ones beside you, to the far-off howl of a dog, or an owl in the trees. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes, and when it does, it settles over everyone at once. One room, one fire, one home. Part 27. What passed for entertainment. Reading aloud slowly. In early America, evenings are quiet, not just peaceful, truly quiet. There are no radios, no music drifting from speakers, no glowing screens, no tapping of fingers, just the soft crackle of firewood, and maybe someone reading aloud. Books are precious. A family might own only one or two. Often, it's a Bible, maybe a weathered almanac, if they are lucky, a small collection of stories, bound in cloth, or stitched by hand, passed down from a relative. Reading aloud is an event, a shared pause in the day. It happens after the last dish is washed, the last chicken is fed, and the last child is tucked beneath a quilt. The fire dims, but still glows enough to see by. Someone takes the book from its shelf. The binding creaks slightly. Pages are turned gently, with care. Words are read slowly, not because of dramatic flair, but because reading is not always easy. Each word is weighed, pronounced, understood. Children sit close, heads on shoulders. A parent might mend a sock while listening. Someone might peel an apple. Slow and quiet, the curl of peel falling to the floor. The stories are not fast. They are not thrilling, but they are steady. A passage about crops, a short tale of a wandering trader, a proverb, a line of poetry. Sometimes the same paragraph is read twice. Not because it was forgotten, but because it sounded nice enough to hear again. No one interrupts. No one rushes. Sometimes, someone falls asleep before the story ends. If the fire grows too dim, the reading ends mid-sentence. A small mark is placed between the pages. The book is closed with two hands, set back on the shelf, and the cabin returns to stillness. Entertainment is not a performance. It is not a distraction. It is just quiet. A voice in the dark. A story spoken slowly. And the soft, patient turning of the page. Part 28. Saying goodnight without lights or privacy. In early America, saying goodnight is not marked by turning off a lamp or setting an alarm clock. There is no hallway light to switch off. No whispered phone calls beneath the covers. No closing of doors, because there are no doors. Just one room, one roof, one shared space. When the last chore is done and the final word is read aloud, the family begins to settle. The fire is banked low, coals pushed into a small pile. Embers glowing like soft stars. The room dims until it is lit only by that orange flicker and whatever moonlight finds its way through the window pane. Beds are arranged in corners and sides. A mattress here, a blanket there. A child curls up on a trundle. A grandparent lies beneath a quilt that smells of smoke and lavender. There is no privacy, only familiarity. You change clothes, if you do at all, behind a blanket held by someone else. Or by turning your back, you fold your outer garments and place them on a nearby bench or nail. Shoes stay near the hearth to dry. Whispers fill the room, soft voices wishing good night. A child asking one last question. A quiet laugh from someone recalling a moment from the day. Then silence. Again, the phrase, good night, is spoken plainly, without ceremony. Sometimes not at all. Sleep simply arrives. There are no curtains, no night lights, only darkness. Outside, the wind brushes the walls. A branch taps gently against the roof. Somewhere in the yard, a chicken murmurs in its sleep. You hear every sound, the rustling of blankets, the shifting of straw, the slow, deep breathing of someone nearby. It is not crowded. It is not lonely. It is simply shared. And in that space, under a low wooden ceiling and the smell of wood smoke, Everyone falls asleep together, one by one, and then, all at once. Part 29. Listening to the night, coyotes, creaks, and cold winds. In early America, the night is not silent. It is quiet, yes, deeply quiet, but not silent. When the candles have burned low, when the fire has crumbled to coals, when every child is beneath a quilt and every boot rests by the hearth, the world outside begins to speak. You lie still, eyes closed, but ears open. The wind moves first. It brushes against the cabin walls with long, soft fingers. It whistles gently through the cracks in the wood. Sometimes, it hums like a far-off tune. Sometimes, it rattles the shutters and sends a shiver down the spine. Then come the creaks. The beams above shift with temperature. The floorboards expand and contract. A cupboard door nudges itself open with a slow tap. Somewhere near your feet, a straw mattress rustles as someone turns. These are not frightening sounds. Just the house breathing, the wood remembering the day. And then, from far away, a howl. A coyote. Or a wolf. Maybe more than one. Their cries carry through the trees, echoing faintly down the hills. It is not a threat. It is just part of the night, wild and distant and natural. Closer still, you might hear an owl. A low hoo, slow and rhythmic. Then silence. Then hoo again. Sometimes, mice scurry near the wall. Or beneath the cupboard, a chicken in the coop shifts. Feathers rustling. The dog beside the door lets out a breath, deep, tired, and content. You listen, not because you're afraid, but because there's nothing else. No music, no cars, no clocks ticking, no background noise, just the sound of a world without machines. Your body begins to relax. The warmth of the blanket holds you still. Your breath joins the rhythm of the room, deep, slow, even, and the night continues outside, uncaring but familiar. In early America, the dark is never empty. It is full of creaks, and howls, and wind through trees. And you fall asleep, listening to all of it. Part 30. Why you'd probably give up by day 2. It sounds romantic. Sometimes. The wooden cabins, the candlelight, the homemade bread, the simplicity, the slowness, the silence. But the truth is, by day 2, you'd probably want to go home. Not because you're weak, not because you lack patience, but because life in early America was not gentle. The morning chill bites harder than you expect. The outhouse is farther. The porridge is colder. The chores don't end. There is no quiet cup of coffee, only bitter brew over smoky fire. No fresh change of clothes, only the same woolen layers, scratchier each hour. No soft bed, just straw and splinters and the creak of every turn. Your hands ache by noon. Your back stiffens by evening. And the night brings not rest, but cold, and creaks, and distant howls. There is no pause. There is no escape. There is no button to press to make it easier. Only work, and repetition, and patience carved out over years, not hours. You might miss the smell of soap that doesn't stain. You might long for silence that doesn't include coyotes and clanging pails. You might give in, quietly, sometime after trying to draw water, again. But for the people who lived it, there was no giving up. They endured, not with heroism, but with habit. They rose every day to the same cold, the same tasks, the same worn shoes. And slowly, over time, they built lives from it. From the mud, from the wind, from the creaking boards of a one-room home. So if you ever try a day in early America, remember this. It wasn't meant to be comfortable. It wasn't meant to be efficient. It was meant to survive. And if you can make it past day 2, you might just stay. But even if not, you'll have earned your place by the fire. If only for a little while.